Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our weekly live stream.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Jackie. We are here with Transgender School that my mom and I founded, and we have my grandparents, Bill and Kath, here with us today.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Bridget.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget, and I'm Jackie's mom. And I am so excited to be here with my parents today. We're very happy to have them as our special guests. So Jackie and I are going to cover a few things, and then we're going to open it up for your questions from Jackie's loving, supportive, wonderful grandparents about what it's like to be her grandparents. And so we'll go ahead and start off with a brief introduction. Right, Jackie? Is that what we had planned? We'll do a quick introduction to what Transgender School is and why we're here. And so Jackie came out as transgender close to 4 years ago now. It'll be 4 years ago in March. And in that time, we've all as a family learned a tremendous amount from Jackie and from our research, and realized that I can speak for myself. I knew very, very little before about what it means to be transgender, and we've learned a lot, and we want to share that with people. Our vision for Transgender School as a business and as a community service is to save lives, to keep families together, and to make work, school, and all spaces safe for transgender people. And so Jackie and I are designing and preparing to deliver online courses, live courses, evergreen courses, and to go out to, not go out to, but I guess virtually be speakers at events and for schools and organizations that want to learn about transgender inclusion and what it means. Well, it doesn't mean just one thing, but about diverse transgender identities. That's how we like to say it, because there are so many different ways of being transgender. So that's us, and that's why we're here. And that's my introduction. I'm Bridget. I'm Jackie's super proud mom. I'm also a consultant and a coach and a trainer and a retired emeritus professor of communication studies. So Jackie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Same introduction I usually do. My name is Jackie. I'm here with my mom and this week my grandparents, trying to educate and empower allies and spread our mission of helping trans people out there have better lives and deal with less transphobia and fewer barriers in our society. I work for the city of San Francisco, and I'm really glad to be here doing this work during my free time, and glad to have my grandparents here with me. So I'll pass it off to them.
Oh, to us?
Just a quick introduction, whatever you want to
Hi.
say.
I'm Bill. I'm Jackie's grandpa. And Kath?
Kath, I'm Jackie's grandmother, and I couldn't be more proud of anybody in the whole world. I love her dearly, and she's been one of the most wonderful parts of my life.
Me
and I'm
too.
a retired
Me too.
nurse.
Yes, and my dad is a business owner and my mom is a retired nurse. So we've been super lucky all our lives to always have Kath be our medical expert, right, Jackie? Just last week we had a family, we're always having a little family injury or situation where, Kath, we need your medical expertise. So very, very lucky. And my dad, Bill, has always been a business owner, and he's been a great mentor to me as a business owner as well. So, and just amazing people. Everybody who knows my parents just knows that they're amazing. Lots of people just adore and love my parents for very, very good reasons. So hopefully some of them will show up today or just watch the video after. So Jackie and I like to start out with a little bit of news. There's news every week. Oh, hi, Alice. Our cousin Alice is here. I was hoping that some of our cousins would show up. We have so many cousins, like something like 80 or 100 cousins, right? For all of us, of course, because we're all in the same family. So it's so great when they show up, and we're very happy to see you. Thank you all for being here. So Jackie, we wanted to start out with sharing news. Every week, we're going to share what's happening in the news on the transgender front. So why don't you kick off with that, Jackie?
Yeah, so this week's current event is a little bit confusing, might be a little bit hard to understand without the larger context related to our Supreme Court and LGBTQ rights. So this week, the Supreme Court declined to take up a case from Oregon. It was a case where parents were suing a school district who had developed a policy that allowed transgender students to use a bathroom that corresponded with their correct gender identity. It is a good thing that the Supreme Court declined to take this case up because given the 6-3 very conservative majority on the Supreme Court, it's unlikely they would have ruled in favor of the school. So it's a good thing they didn't take it up. The lower court ruling, which defended the school's policy, will stand. This comes within the larger context, though, of an erosion of LGBTQ rights by the federal government. The Supreme Court recently heard arguments in a case that would allow, I believe the case was Fulton versus the city of Philadelphia, that would allow religious institutions to prohibit adoption to same-sex couples, even while participating in local, state, and federal run foster care programs. So that is a case that the Supreme Court has yet to rule on. But unfortunately, it does not seem likely that they're going to rule in the city of Philadelphia's favor. It seems like they will rule in favor of Catholic charities, and they will allow religious run institutions to deny adoption to same-sex couples. So that will not be good. And unfortunately, when it comes to students' rights to use the correct bathroom, the Supreme Court has also not yet taken up a case addressing whether Title IX or the Constitution requires states to allow transgender students to use the correct bathroom. Unfortunately, if they do take that case up, they would likely find, given their rulings on similar issues, that Title IX and the Constitution do not require schools to allow transgender students to use the correct bathroom, which means that we will very likely end up in a legal reality where, absent some sort of federal legislation that's passed by both chambers of Congress and signed into law by the president, something like the Equality Act, absent that, we're likely going to have differing rights on a state by state, even county by county, school district by school district level, where students in some parts of the country will be allowed to use the correct bathroom, but students in other parts of the country won't. And I can just say from personal experience that this is a really complicated issue. It's really difficult for trans people because we just want to go to the bathroom. And so it may be complicated in terms of federal courts and policy and legal precedent, but for trans people, we just want to pee, and it's really nerve-wracking. It's really anxiety-inducing to not know if you're going to get called out going to the bathroom, to not know if someone's going to harass you in the bathroom. So it's a real shame that this is something that we are litigating in our highest courts, and that so many people are choosing this hill to die on, to say that they really don't think trans people should be allowed to use the right bathroom. So
Yeah.
more to come on that.
Thank you, Jackie. And I just really want everyone to think about this. And this is a topic that comes up. And I've heard people, even people, I'll be honest, that say they're supportive of transgender rights. I had one of them say to me like, oh, well, what's the big deal about the bathroom? They can just use whatever bathroom they want to use, so what if it's a law? Nobody's going to follow it. And that's not true, because there are a lot of people out there who would use that against, use that to embolden them, to confront people, to make trans people uncomfortable going to the bathroom in the bathroom that they look like they belong in, but if for some reason someone maybe thinks that they're transgender or can tell somehow, they're going to harass them and make it uncomfortable and unsafe for them. So it is a big deal. It does matter. Please take this seriously. Please support us. And when these debates and these conversations come up, in advocating this, our whole transgender school is allyship and advocacy. So this is one example where you can be an advocate for us. As a mom, it terrifies me to think, when Jackie was first transitioning and she was uncomfortable going into the bathroom in case someone might have some kind of reaction, it terrified me to think of how someone might react, and also to know that she was waiting a really long time until she could go to the bathroom to go at home. And that's just unsafe, unhealthy, and just an awful situation for someone to be in. So please, please be advocates with us when these conversations come up and when people talk about the legal issues and the decisions that our lawmakers are making. Thank you. And so we will turn it over now to discussing family support. We discuss family support a lot, and Jackie and I intend to put together courses that are specifically for family members of transgender people, probably a specific course for parents, and courses for all family members. And I'll just lead in by saying that my parents could not possibly be more supportive. I think Jackie and I agree on that. It's been very sad to me to talk with so many parents of transgender kids who are terrified of telling their parents, like my parents' generation. They just know that their parents are super conservative or religious or not open-minded, or I'm not saying just because of your political leaning or your faith or whatever that you're not going to be supportive. That's not necessarily true. But I never had that worry. I knew immediately that my parents that Jackie was the light of their life, and that this wouldn't affect how they feel about her at all, and they wouldn't skip a beat. And that's exactly what happened. And so we want to show that to you and model that for you, how that is possible. And we would like to know what questions you have for Bill and Kath. And maybe we'll just ask a couple questions to start. And then we're all looking at the comments right now for the live feed. And we would love to know what questions that you have for superstar grandparents, Bill and Kath. But I will also just quickly say that Bill and Kath raised me to be loving, supportive, inclusive of all people. And I grew up, my dad, as I said, is a business owner. He had a business partner the whole time I was growing up who was a gay man, Foster, who was like my second dad, him and his partner, Don, and I adored them. And I knew that they were a gay couple. And so from the get-go, as early back as I can remember, LGBTQ people were part of our family, our extended family. And that's the way I was raised. And so Bill and Kath, maybe you could just take a minute to tell us like what it's been like for you. You know, were a huge part of Jackie's life growing up. She slept over at your house like every weekend, all the time, was with you all the time. You were super involved grandparents who like picked her up from school. I think, Bill, you took Jackie out to breakfast every week one morning and took her to school most of her life. And so like super close grandparent relationship. What was it like for you to learn at 19 that she's transgender, that she's actually your granddaughter instead of, you know, both of you, no, both of you, you know, whoever wants to chime in, and like, how has this 4 years been for you making that shift and realizing that?
Well, we were with you the day Jackie told you about it. We were visiting the Natural History Museum, and you had a phone call, and that was very interesting day. We didn't get to see much of the museum that day. We spent most of the day sitting outside in the cafeteria. But you know, I can't say it was shocking or anything. It was, I mean, we loved Jackie since she was an infant, you know, and she's been part of our lives. And I mean, we had to learn how to do it right, you know, we had to learn, you know, a lot of times the hard way how to do it correctly, but we always wanted to do it correctly and be there for Jackie, no matter what Jackie was doing. I mean, you know, we were in our 50s when Jackie came along, and it was a whole big thrill for us to have a grandchild. You know, it's just really super exciting. And, you know, we went from just hanging around the house and going to work all the time to having a kid to throw up in the air and bounce on the bed. And, you know, if you remember Jackie, drop you out of a hammock onto a brick patio, things like that. But I mean, it just...
We didn't tell you.
I'm just learning this now.
There are plenty of things like that. But you know, I mean, it was something new to deal with, but life just went on, and we, it was our same Jackie, just, you know, a different way of thinking about it for us, not so much for Jackie, that we, you know, we were determined to do right, and you know, the love was always there, and sometimes we might say the wrong thing or whatever. It might make, we occasionally still do now, but we, you know, we don't want to, and we want everybody to know that it's important to transgender people to know that that's to people that know transgender people, to know that that's important to transgender people, to say the right thing and be an ally and a friend and a you know, a true grandparent, not just accepting, you know, that's not enough. I mean, you have to be supportive and loving you know, I mean, Jackie's further away now, so we see her. Well, we see everybody on Zoom now. We don't go anywhere, so we just see everybody on Zoom. But you know, we miss her a lot, and you know, it's been a learning experience, but a good experience, and it seems like the whole world is opening up to acceptance and understanding and being supportive of transgender people. And the ones that aren't are, I mean, I don't really know anybody that isn't, but I mean, not personally anyway, including conservative friends. Every one of conservative friends is totally supportive and understanding of it too. So I think the world is just going that way, and being transgender is just going to be like being a person, you know, hopefully for everybody, even, you know, the middle of the country or wherever you are. I said a lot, you say something.
Well, I think when we first heard, when she first told us, you know, that this was her life, you know, I had a terrible fear that we were going to lose her in some way, that we were going to lose some part of her. And I found that not to be true at all. She's the same humorous, funny, compassionate person she always was, saving every little suffering thing, you know. And I just realized that it was just a little bit of a different package now, that's all. And we couldn't love her more. And welcome to the world, Jackie. We just love you very much.
And we're proud of what you're
Love you
doing
guys
too. We're
And I
proud of
miss
you.
you guys too.
Yeah,
We miss you too. And we're proud of you doing what you're doing to
Yeah.
share the experience
the
with
world
people.
needs
you know.
you very much.
Yeah.
That's so perfect, Mom and Dad. I hope everybody can see how lucky we are and how they're just the best. And I think they answered one of the questions that came up. I see Lindsay was asking, you know, how you handled maybe comments from unsupportive people. And we've all been incredibly blessed that all our friends, regardless of their beliefs or their religion or whatever it is, like everybody has been incredibly loving, supportive, understanding. I think Mom and Dad, you've had the same experience with everyone in the family, your friends, right?
Yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
And I think that's worth noting. That's largely a function of the part of the country that we live in. It's
Yeah.
largely a function of the fact that when you live in an area where most people are supportive, the people who are not supportive are usually going to be quiet about it and just kind of slowly float off away and away from your life, out of your life, and not really say anything, because they don't really feel comfortable doing that, because they know they'll be called out if they actually say or do anything too problematic. So we're lucky to live in a place where that is our reality.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, a lot of people's reality is that they do know a lot of people who are very openly transphobic. So
absolutely. Yeah. And I'll just share.
Yeah.
So just a quick comment. When we posted this event, we got some incredibly hateful comments. We posted it in the public and did a little ad for it. And so I got a little taste of how things are in the real world outside of our bubble of where we are in California. And there were really, really scary, incredibly hateful, a lot of comments just from posting, you know, publicly in an ad that we were doing this event. So I want everybody to be aware of that, as much as it's not fun to talk about, because that's why we need you. We need you to take your advocacy with us seriously. And those are the people we need to reach. All of you here, we feel your love and support. So great questions. Okay. So, Barbara, thank you for being here. Barbara, I love you. I miss you. I miss you all. I see it's so nice for you to be here. And Barbara had a really practical question about old photos. And Jackie and I feel like we've talked about this, but this is only Jackie and I have been talking about this as we record in our courses. So you haven't heard us talk about it, but I have gotten rid of all old photos. Jackie asked me to do that very early on. Most transgender people do. They do not want to be triggered and reminded of when they were living as not their true self. And so you won't find any photos in our house on display. You might find some way back in a bin in a garage cabinet, which I think Jackie's okay with. She can let me know, but you certainly won't see any on display. And that is true at Jackie's grandparents' house as well. Do you want to say anything more about that? And I think we're at the point where it's like, we love Jackie so much, like whatever will help her to feel supported and safe and comfortable and not be triggered. You know, it's not easy being transgender, and it's not a choice, and it's not something like, I'm cisgender, I have all that privilege. What do I care about photos? Like, I want my daughter to feel comfortable and to feel good about being in our home, not to see something that triggers her about being transgender, which she never chose, right? So that's how I feel about it. I feel very strongly about it. But I'm 4 years in, so I really, really empathize with parents and family members that are struggling with this in the beginning. And I didn't put pictures away right away, and I regret that now. And it was hard for Jackie. Would you add anything to that, Mom and Dad? I don't think you have any pictures. I know you don't have any.
No, we don't
Absolutely
have.
no pictures.
No.
That's completely understood. Completely. I mean,
but again, it's a thing that you need to, you know, if you're just experiencing this for the first time, you need to be told that, because otherwise you don't understand it, you know. And
right.
It makes sense when you explain it. It makes complete sense when you explain it. And, you know, that's just one of the easier things to think about. It gets a little more tricky than that with some other issues, I'm sure.
Yeah. And Barbara was also asking how you feel about pictures, Jackie.
Yeah, no, I think that just about covers it. I don't see a need to really keep any of that stuff. I can understand why my parents or grandparents might feel more attached to it than I do, because I don't feel attached to it at all. So if they want to keep it, that's kind of their prerogative. But as long as it's not up where I can see it, that's good with me.
No, every once in a while, a picture pops up, and I really feel like, who is that? Who is that? I don't recognize the person. I don't know that person. I only know you. So I get that.
Yeah.
That is just the wrong person. That was another universe, another.
And I see another good question, which I'd be curious to see what everyone thinks. But Lindsay asks, has your relationship changed at all in the past 4 years? Closer, just different, small ways? I would say I feel closer with all of my immediate family, the three of you included, obviously. I would say that coming out was something that forced me to be open and honest with you all in a way that I had never been before. And I think that our relationship has really been strengthened by that ever since.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally
agree.
agree.
It gave us something bigger to share than just a breakfast or a, you know, or a Thanksgiving dinner or something. And you know, it's good of you to accept us for what we are too. You know, we're just learning every day about it. I mean, I heard one person talking on a podcast about how, you know, with gay people and their parents don't accept it and they get very upset about it. But, you know, a person that's even the slightest bit loving of their child, the one thing you can take away from your parents if they don't do the right thing with you is your presence. So, you know, if someone is feeling that their parents are really being bad about it and not doing it, you know, you can take away your presence, and I think they'll eventually come around and say, that's my person. I have to do the right thing. And you know, it may be a hard thing for some people to do, to go away from their parents when their parents are, you know, not on board with it. But you know, if the parents truly love their child and then not just, you know, bad people, should eventually come around and be accepting and loving and get involved, you know?
Yeah. And same with grandparents. You know, I've met lots of families where the parents, you know, come around quickly and they're supportive and on board, and the grandparents are just, it's part of it maybe is generational or whatever it is. Like, it takes the grandparents longer, and we just feel so lucky that that's not the case at all in our family, that we all, you know, my parents were so loving and happy to learn and grow and embrace Jackie's identity. Mary, hi Mary, thank you so much for being here. How long do you think it took to recognize that person who would show up in a reminder. I'm not sure.
Or to not
Cass.
recognize, I think is the
It took,
question.
oh, right. Okay, no, this is a good question. So this is kind of building on what you were saying, Mom, about how like if we see a picture of Jackie before she transitioned now, it's like, that's not Jackie. She wasn't herself then. And Mary's asking like, how long did that take? Because if we're honest, I appreciate the question, Mary, like it's a process. It's a transition for everyone. Like you don't just do that overnight. Like in the beginning, all of us, I think, felt really afraid of a huge loss. Like we felt like we were losing someone. And now we realize, as Cass said, like we didn't lose anyone. Jackie is Jackie. She's more herself now. Now she's really herself. So we've only gained, in the situation where now we know who Jackie really is. And but in the beginning, it really did feel like losing someone, like you were going to lose someone. And how long did it take? It's so hard to say. I think it's just like a transitional process over, for me, at least a year, I would say. I don't know. What do you think, Mom and Dad?
I don't know if I could put a time period on it. It happened, and once it happened, it was like your own transition. It was irrevocable. You weren't going to go back, and you were happy to be there too. You were happy to be on the same page with her. You were happy to support her. I mean, there was no going back then,
And like Jackie said, even though it was something new and something to think about, and like you saying, Bridget, it's a transition. It's still a transition. Even now, it's a transition. And Jackie changes as a person, not just being transgender. Just she changes as a person. She gets a different job. She has different responsibilities. So she's still transitioning into what she does every day. But I mean, I think from the very first minute that we found out what it was, all we wanted to do was be supportive and be there for her. And I think, like Jackie said, and I'm happy about it, it's actually brought us closer.
Yeah.
We share something bigger and more meaningful than, like I said, like a breakfast or a dinner or something. It's a real relationship, and it's based on love, and it's based on actually doing something to be supportive occasionally, not just being accepting or being, oh, that's okay with me. We're there for you.
We know it's the harder road to take. It's not the easy road to take, and that makes your love even, more intense because you love that person and you see them struggle some, but you see that amazing courage and that amazing, genuine drive to be, to use that cliche, authentic, but you pay a price for that. So, when you love somebody, that just brings you closer.
I think Jackie said something in a post once about, for people that don't understand it or think you're just trying to get into the wrong bathroom or something, like, why would somebody choose to do something as difficult as this?
Yeah. And I think that actually relates to a question I see Lindsay asked. Is there anything you feel you've lost, anything at all that you miss? And I'll defer to you all to answer if you feel like you've lost anything. But I mean, yeah, I lost a ton. Like I lost the ability to walk down the street at night and not look over my shoulder and wonder if that guy 10 feet behind me is following me. I've lost a lot of privilege and security just going out into the world. And that's real. You can't really prepare for that. It's just kind of something you live with. I don't know that I miss it. I mean, I wish that nobody had to feel unsafe walking down the street. But it's definitely a loss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say, not funny, it's interesting to hear you say that, Jackie, because my first response to the question was going to be, I don't feel like I've lost anything. Like you and I are close. We have a great relationship. There's nothing we had before that we don't have now and have more now. I lost my concept of gender. Like I thought that people were male or female. Like I lost a construct in my mind that I now realize is not a real construct. It's just a social construct. You know, even though I used to teach about social constructs, like I didn't get it that was just not a reality in the real physical world. Like gender is fluid, and some people are transgender and some people are cisgender. Some transgender people are non-binary. Like I lost the construct of gender, but that was hard. That is still hard. I'm still like struggling with that and seeing people as not a gender. But when Jackie said what she said just now, I just got a really sick feeling in my stomach, because she made me realize that's a big part of what I've lost, is as a mother, this knowing, being secure in the level of safety that you expect that your child has. So I thought Jackie was a white male, which, you know, is the most privileged, in my opinion, person you could be in this world. And now knowing she's a transgender female, I sit in a different space of worry at night and in the middle of the night, and especially in the beginning, not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, not, you know, I was in extreme distress and anxiety over her safety and her ability to live her life as herself and be happy and well-adjusted and have what she needed. So I've definitely lost the security of being able to count on a relative degree of safety and security for my child.
Well, and beyond just safety, I mean, all the little nuances of living in a
Yes.
gendered world and all the little privileges you get, especially in professional spaces. I had already been interning at City Hall before I was out, and then I kept interning at City Hall as I transitioned. And it was funny because when I presented male, no matter how inexperienced I was, anyone who walked in the front door and needed help, I could help them. They didn't need to go to my superior. I was enough to help them. But then suddenly, once I presented as a woman, it was, oh, I need to talk to somebody else. Is the boss here? Is your supervisor here? Is a legislative aide here? So it's somewhat higher ranking than you here.
Yeah.
And that bleeds over into a lot of interactions, whether it's not being taken seriously, not being considered as seriously for certain positions. It's real, and it's grueling, and it weighs on you, especially to have experienced it after not experiencing it, and to realize how tangible a difference in opportunity it is.
Yeah, Jackie has a really unique perspective on male privilege, which I think some men deny still. And she has a lot that she can teach us all about that, being able to see from both sides now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything on that for you, Mom and Dad? Did you feel you lost anything, or?
No, well,
I just, I can remember one kind of funny story when she was doing political work in Michigan, and she was on her way home with her two cats in the car, driving all the way back to San Francisco, and her car broke down. And we got this bit by bit, and it was like, oh no, she's in danger. She's in Michigan, remember Michigan? I mean,
well, actually, I was in Nebraska when my car broke down.
Even worse. No. And I remember that sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, like, is she in danger? And she met somebody who just felt, a woman who they got along famously, and you went home and stayed at her house, right? I mean, wasn't there someone somebody helped you?
Well, it was great, because I had a lot of support in that campaign. I was able to stay at the house of one of the campaign supporters while I was working on the campaign. She was really accepting and amazing. Shout out to Liz. Thanks for being great. And then on the way back, it was scary to have my car break down, because I was in the middle of nowhere near the border of Nebraska and Colorado on the 80. And AAA wasn't even, I barely had phone service. I had to call AAA like 5 times just to get through to them. They weren't sure they were going to be able to send me a tow truck at all. And then when they did send me a tow truck, it was me and that tow truck driver out in the middle of nowhere, sitting in the cab of his tow truck, going back to his auto shop. And I was totally dependent on him. I had to borrow his car so I could drive in town and spend the night at a hotel while I waited for the parts that they needed for my car to get shipped in from Denver. And I don't know if he noticed I was trans. I was like doing my best voice and trying to really pass. But I mean, I was totally at the mercy of those people. And it definitely was a time where I really was aware of my safety and how it was totally in the hands of the people around me. And I saw
And
one other.
I just want to say we all were too. I did not
Yeah.
sleep that night. I didn't sleep at all that night. Were you there for one night or 2 nights?
I only spent one night there.
One
I was
night.
lucky.
I remember. I
yeah.
was not. I didn't sleep that night, and I couldn't really relax until I knew your car was fixed and you were getting out of there.
Stayed at a hotel in Julesburg, Colorado for $30. Shout out Julesburg. And then I see one other, I know we're going over time, but I see one other question I would like to answer because I think it's a good one, from Barbara about what it was like for you, Mom, and for Bill and Kath as well, when you were first putting away those photos, and whether there was a period of grieving and how we made space for each other's needs during that process. Because I remember there was that one photo in particular in the kitchen where I had longer hair, and it was kind of like before I really went through puberty. So you were like, oh, can we keep this photo because you don't look super masculine in it? And I was uncomfortable with it, but you were really pushing it. And so I said, sure, yeah, you can keep it because it seemed important to you. And it stayed up for a while, but you took it down eventually because I think you realized that I would prefer to not have it up. And I appreciate that. But I think that was a good example of how we both had to kind of make some space there and go at our own pace with what was comfortable for us.
I can give you an example from our past that's different, but might have some of the same feeling. If you remember, when you and I were dating, my mom had loved.
I thought of this.
My mom
I know
had loved
exactly.
my previous girlfriend of 3 or 4 years, and she had the prom picture on the wall
For a year.
after we were married.
It probably felt like that, right?
She had my prom picture with my girlfriend on the wall for a year.
Little different, but funny story. No, good story. Yes,
It's
that I'm sure to
different,
Mom
it's
it was.
different,
But
It's different, but it's like an upsetting picture, Mom,
Yes.
for you to see. You're married to this man, and you have to look at his prom picture for a year after you're married.
Yeah.
Yes.
It took a few more years, but she finally got the
Yeah.
picture off the wall and became
Yeah.
the one, you know.
Our cousin
the rest
Gabby's
is history.
laughing. Our cousin, we all love Nana. Hi, Gabby. We see you,
And-
Gabby.
and-
saying,
And
Gabby's
she
saying, oh,
loved
that's
me
Nana.
more than you
Nana.
can ever know. She loved me to
Yes.
death. So
Nana
it's just a
came
little bit
around and
difficult in the
loved. Yeah, Nana came around and loved my mom
Yeah.
like her own child, but you
Yes.
had to win her. You had to,
Yes.
you had to. And so all our cousins are laughing. We see you laughing. You know how my Nana was, Gabby and Alice. Yes, and she got really, really attached to people. Right? She was like the most loving,
of course.
connected.
Yes.
So she was attached to this former girlfriend, but then she just needed that time, right?
And-
Anyway, back to that's a great story. I love that story. But the question, and this is something that I hope that you're some of you are looking at our posts on Instagram and in our group, because I've shared a lot and been very, very vulnerable about my journey, especially and I was not. I regret the things I did in the beginning. So the story that Jackie told about the picture, now I don't feel like that person anymore. Like now I cannot fathom keeping a darn picture on the wall that upset my transgender daughter because of my attachment. Like to me now, who I am now, 4 years in, I don't even understand why I would do that. But for whatever reason, that's where I was. We can all look back, right, at times in our lives where it was like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I was with that person or whatever it is. Like that's how I see how I was now. And that's especially how I see how I was in the very beginning, almost 4 years ago. When Jackie first told me that she was transgender, I didn't believe it. I challenged her. I said things that I now, we wrote our 10 tips for communication with transgender people. And a lot of that comes from the place of the things that I said that I now deeply regret saying, like challenging her and saying, could this be a phase? Could you be wrong? But we didn't have any signs, which now I know there were all kinds of signs. And Jackie has shared with me things that I didn't realize and things that I could see. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it now, Jackie, but Jackie always wanted long hair. And like, I don't know if, there were signs but when she first came out, I was like, there were no signs. This is so crazy. And now 4 years later, I'm like, oh, there are all kinds of signs. And even if there weren't any signs, You believe your child. You believe the transgender person who tells you they're transgender. It's not a choice. It's not a mental illness. It's just who someone is. It's just a form of human diversity. When your child or anyone in your life tells you they're transgender, the only thing to say is, thank you for trusting me and telling me, how can I support you? That's it, right? So yes, Barbara, I took a long time, and everyone, I took a long time to process, to come around. I said things that I should not have said. I said things that I begged people not to say. Jackie asked me if I would ever see her as my daughter, and I said no. And it still makes me tear up and sick to this day. If I could take any word back I've ever spoken in my life, it would be that 2 letters. I would just say, yes, of course I will. It might take me a while, but of course I will. And now I only see Jackie as my daughter. So
That's who you are now.
That me? You
That's
mean me?
who
Yeah,
you
that's
are
why
now is like not that person.
yeah, I'm not that person. And I regret that I was that person, but I want to share that with people honestly, because I now talk with so many parents of transgender kids who just came out. And it's like all I can do to just beg them, please, please get support for yourself. Join our support group. I'm a volunteer in our support group. It's fantastic. Like therapy, whatever you need, but just support your child and just affirm for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good place to call it for this week. Thank you all so
Thank
much for
you.
being here and for your questions. We might take a couple weeks off for the holidays, but we look forward to joining you for future live streams. And we will have more content, digital courses, webinars, all kinds of stuff coming soon. So those 20 or so of you who are here in our live stream, you're on the ground floor, look forward to much more to come. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
You.
And we love
Thank
you
you,
to our
everybody.
family members that are on there too, like
Yes,
We
Gabs
love
thank
you.
you so much to our
Alice
friends.
and my
Friends.
friend Jerry too is in there.
Jerry, thank
Okay.
you for being here. Thank
Hey,
you
Jerry.
so much. Thank you, everybody. Barbara, Lindsay, Mary, Gabby, Cheryl, everybody who's here. Thank you so much. Please come back. Yeah, we might take a little holiday break, but please, please be on the lookout. We will be back.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.